Bio 2870 is a course in human anatomy and physiology. We're not comparing humans to other organisms, although at times I may mention the anatomy and or the physiology, how it occurs in other organisms, but our focus is on human anatomy and physiology. Now, the word anatomy itself has a Greek origin as far as a term is concerned. It literally means a cutting open. Most likely refers to the dissections that were performed in order to better understand the human body. Anatomy itself, as a biological field of study, is the study of internal and external structures and the physical relationship between body parts as far as location is concerned in the body. It can be divided into two major fields, macroscopic and microscopic. The macroscopic is often referred to as gross anatomy, gross meaning large. So large or macroscopic anatomy and microscopic anatomy. Gross anatomy, also called macroscopic anatomy, is the study of structures visible with the unaided eye. It includes many subfields, several listed here: surface anatomy, the general form and superficial markings on the human body; regional anatomy, the study of superficial and internal features of specific region of the body. For example, in clinical settings, you may have visited a doctor before that is said to be an ear, nose, and throat specialist. That is a region. That region has many, many different systems involved in it. Systemic anatomy is a separate field, the study of structure of major organ systems. So a cardiovascular specialist focuses on the cardiovascular system, which goes through all regions of the body. Nevertheless, in many clinical settings, a specialist will focus on regional anatomy and therefore may have to deal with structures that are involved in respiration and circulation and digestion and so on. Other subfields would include, beyond these three, clinical anatomy, and that may actually be divided into several subfields. For example, radiography or radiographic anatomy or surgical anatomy and so on, things that are related specifically to those subfields of macroscopic anatomy. Embryology would be another example there, where we could have developmental anatomy, again clinically related to the development of the organism, embryology being a subset of developmental anatomy as we look at the early stages of development of an organism, an individual human being. Microscopically, the study of structures that cannot be seen with the naked eye without magnification would include cytology and histology. Now, cytology itself is the study of individual cells. That prefix cyto, you'll see many times endocytosis, meaning within cells, or exocytosis, the movement of materials across and out of cells. Cytology has to take place at the microscopic level because cells are so small. With very few exceptions, they cannot be seen with the naked eye. Histology itself is a study of collections of cells or tissues and related tissues. In some cases, we can use like a dissecting microscope and look at tissues of an organ and can actually see the tissue with the unaided eye, but to really study the cells and the interactions amongst the cells in the tissue, we need more powerful microscopes. So histology falls under microscopic anatomy because the bulk of it takes place using the assistance of microscopes. Physiology, compared to anatomy, physiology also has a Greek origins as far as the term is concerned, focuses more on the function rather than the structure of living organisms and their parts. Of course, it's interrelated with anatomy because structure determines function. In fact, there's a principle of complementarity that simply says that you can't really understand the function of a particular organismal structure without understanding its anatomy, and its anatomy gives clues about its function. So physiology is often explained in terms of the anatomy of structural components of an organism. So human physiology is the study of functions of the human body, and specialties here include cell physiology, special physiology, where you may study an organ by itself, say the heart or the renal structures of the kidneys, systemic physiology, where you study the activity of a system as a whole, and in clinical settings, pathological physiology or pathology, the effects of disease on organ or organ systems. Now, we will be studying human anatomy and physiology at the systemic or via systemic approach. That is, we'll be learning the 11 systems that make up the human body and their anatomy and physiology.